So last week we set up the ear, and I gotta say that this ear is way too small. It could have been twice that size. And then you have to kind of visualize and turn it back and forth like this so that you can see the one side of the ear here, and then when you turn it, and you can kind of visualize where okay, there's the top of the ear there, there's the top of the ear there. Turn it back and forth until you're satisfied, and just establish kind of a square. Get the parameters, the front and the back. Remember, there's a sideburn on both sides. So now everybody seems to be having trouble accessing this, and I did too when I was doing the original. But you can see there's a lot of space in there. Once you remove the wood, there's a lot of space in there. So if it's a benefit, let's just go at that arm and try and, we know what the outside is, so let's get more of the wood hollowed in here. Just make sure that when you start hollowing that you leave the ear. So we're going to get a shape coming down here, but don't get too carried away. The biggest part you want to realize here is that this goes up. This side of his body goes up to above his shoulder. So you should be able to put your thumb in there. That shape should be like the shape of your thumb going in there. And so once you get in there, you can see that you can nearly see all of that ear once you remove the side of this. So this arm becomes quite narrow. I purposely made the elbow thin and then spread it out a little bit for to accommodate the top of his shirt, the sleeve, and then his leg or his hand fits inside that. So don't worry about the detail here. Just get this outside shape up to the glove. Don't worry about the hand or any detail there. Just get this general shape. So you can see that it's relatively straight coming down. Then be able to put your thumb in here. Then you're going to get the shape then. So just mess around a little bit with that. Remove a bit of wood at a time and try and get that shape going. So you can see I've started here on mine, but it's still, I can't put my thumb in there yet. It's quite a ridge in here. So I'm going to get rid of that wood so that until I'm satisfied with the shape. And
is there a way to approach it from the back angle too, Brian?
I don't touch the back. I always carve the side that you see the most.
Okay.
And that's basically the outside of it. And then make the back work to fit. So I'm going to hollow that out there, and likely skinny down. This arm looks way too wide, and so I'm going to skinny this down here, particularly on the front. Okay, and I'll just use about a number 5 gouge on that. So you can see that I've taken out quite a bit of wood in this area here. I have my thumb imprint in there now, and so that, if you run that right up there, that should be more or less a continuous shape, and that gives you the one side of the shape. So now once you get that, now you can put the crook in the arm here and start to give that arm a little bit of a round shape to it. I would use a knife on that. Obviously not very many tools will fit in there, so if you just put a stop cut in and make that first cut like that, you can right away start to see, well, hey, I got way too much material on the inside in here, so I can start to remove some of the material inside so you get this crotch in here, and so now you can start to shape. So you can see that if you're just going to visualize the outside of it, this is like a curve in here, and this is more or less a straight line coming up here. Don't worry about the hand or the arm inside the sleeve, just go straight up. So you create that nice triangle shape in there. So let's get some. So there it is, finished as far as access is concerned. Narrowed it down quite a bit. I can get my thumb in there. Nice shape all the way up. Now I've got a hole all the way through, and even up to joining that other hole that I had drilled through to basically join those two big holes together. So now there's some landmarks we got to establish, and in the design you see this little tab here, and on your carving there is that little tab is there as well. So you can see that it goes up on about a 45-degree angle. So let's just put that mark in there so that you don't lose sight of where the sleeve ends. Like he's got he's got his shirt over top of his, let's call it underwear, his undershirt. Okay, like they do. So let's get that established so we don't lose it. We've got the square for the point of his elbow. Now you can see where the top of the sleeve is up here before you get to the glove, so we know that the glove is up here. So come down and let's just put a mark in there, and you can see that as this angle goes this way, this angle goes the other way. So let's just establish that it kind of follows the shape of the arm. So you can just mark it on the front and mark it all the way around if you like, but let's just make sure that we realize then now that we've got to thin down that arm just a little bit to accommodate the outer layer of his shirt, and then up here it's got to be left a little bit more proud so that we can narrow it down eventually and put the wrist in there. Okay, so that's just get those marks established so that you don't lose them. Comes right off the diagram. Good design. His carving had a sharp edge in here, and I told them that it really shouldn't be, that it should be smooth. That was my choice when I did my original one. I kind of did a sweep in there. It did go up, but both sides are the same in that the peak joins onto the hat, so whatever that shape is there. But the most important part of that feature is that the hat goes up. Where are we? The hat goes up and over top of the ear. So over here you can see that the peak is a little bit lower here, so we're going to try and create that same situation here. So the peak of the hat is here, so I'm going to change the shape of that somewhat so that it comes down. The pen's not marking very good. So I get that curve going in there so that the hat goes above the ear. So that means I'm going to have to narrow down this hat here. I'm going to have to take some wood off of this, maybe even reshape the peak a little bit at the front. But first thing I'm going to do is put a very small V-cut in there. But the V-cut is going to be on the top side of the ear so that the ear stays proud. So just take a V-tool and lay it flat towards the top this time so that you create the top of the ear. Okay, so there it is with the sweep up so that it goes up, and now I've created a kind of a block for the top of the ear. And so now I'm going to establish the bottom of the ear, and that's simply with a V-tool. So I've got my parameters marked out there. I'm going to remove that. So then I've got the top and the bottom of my ear established, and then just a question of getting at the back. And that's a bit tricky but by removing the wood we removed in through this area here, you can just about see that. You can get that V-tool in there. So just work it very gently up and down to get the back side of that ear. So there you got it. Then I got it square for my ear now. My sideburn is on the front. Looks like it's a little bit too high here, so I'm going to power that down just a bit. I guess you could outline it with a knife to accomplish a similar result. So the same thing as before, the back side of the ear halfway, the bottom halfway, join that together, that creates a slope, and just going to knock off each corner. I'll just do that with a knife. Okay, so there's the ear. So now you can see that I got way too much material in here to shape the bottom of his face and down underneath his chin here. So if you take a look at the finished diagram here, you can see that this gouge, geez, it's hard to get the right angle there, but there, this gouge kind of fits right into the right shape. This happens to be a number 5 20mm. So I'm going to start paring it down by going in reverse and using the gouge upside down, and I'm going to start paring away some of that material. So you see it immediately starts to round around, and I'm going to get that shape coming down. So I'll work away at that a little bit and get it somewhat smoothed down. So there it is with the shape of this gouge all the way around. So push it in this way and then come up to relieve the material this way. So now you can see that in the arm, the side of the face goes right up, and there's an edge to where the arm and the side of his cheek or jaw meet. So the same thing applies. So I want to continue that thumb hollow in there right up to the side of his face. So just rotate your gouge in there and then come back, and so that takes out that hunk of material in a hurry just by coming in this way and then coming in that way. And so again, that thumb imprint can go in all the way. So that, then you can see now that I can start to hollow out and get in behind where the sleeve and the side of his face meet in this area in here. So it's more or less a sharp angle that's going to go through there eventually. So you just grab the V-tool and clean that out a bit. So it looks something like that. So now I've got a continuous side of his face and a continuous side of his shoulder coming in there. Just keep on putting your thumb in there and make sure you can feel it. Nice smooth surface. So now we're going to work on the back of his head a little bit, his whole back. So you can see that there's a lot of material that has to come out in this area here. Well, we want to leave the arm, but if you turn it sideways, you can see that his right arm sits out proud in comparison to the arm with the glove on. So in the diagram, that's very, very obvious, because there it is, the rear view, and you can see the shape of the arm here, and this comes in here. This is going to be hollowed in here to create the back of his head. But if you look at this design on this side here, you can see how far out that arm sits. It sits, the width of the arm is out of the back of his body. So the trick here is to carve this arm here. So we want to make sure that we leave lots of material. Remember, we've got a whole hand to create in here. There's going to be a ball with a thumb, but if we leave all this area in here, then you'll be all set. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to come in and create where the pinch of the elbow is, where the bend in the elbow is going to be. So just guesstimate at that, and then it comes up a distance, and you can see that because see the notch in there. The notch is that notch. So you can find out where that bend is really fast, because the bend is going to be above that. So you can see that this area in here, all this material in here can be gotten rid of. So we're going to take a V-tool and we're going to start to remove some wood there. Be gentle, make sure leave extra wood to start with, and then gradually par it down.
Is the notch in that elbow just a hair lower than the notch in the other elbow?
Yes,
Just a drop.
it's just, well, you can see where the hand is. The hand on the on this guy here, there. The hand. This is a higher. If the hand is higher, then the elbow is going to be higher on this side. Whereas on the other side, the hand is a little bit lower, so that makes the elbow a little bit lower. Yeah. So, and you can see it's quite a bit of difference in the cutout. Okay, so this is what we're going to remove. We're going to just take a V-tool and start to par that down. So just be bold. I use a V-tool a lot for roughing out. So right away you can start to see, well, hey, that's coming along pretty good. Now it's got to go deep because eventually that's going to go right through, isn't it? It's going to poke out the other side. So you can see I've got the shape started already. So now I can start to remove all the wood coming across here, make the shoulders drop in quite a bit so that it's more or less a straight line from this shoulder to this shoulder here, straight across. So this one will be proud, this one will be knocked back. His body shape dictates that. And I'll use my big gouge on that. I'll just give her. Remember, it's easier cutting across the grain than it is with. So now the shoulders stick out a little bit. So now start to come in above the shoulders. It's a bit big gouge for that, but you get the idea. So you see now, I've got a shoulder in there. The shoulder's coming across. And now I'm starting to hollow it down for the back of his head. Okay. So there it is started. You can see that I've got the shoulder started. But if you look at the diagram here, you can see that this shape here and this cut here, okay, are going to be more or less, got to be deepened. So if you take a look at where the arm hits the back of the head, that will dictate where this glove comes down, because the glove is more or less in a straight line all the way. Okay, so just draw a line straight down there, and so that means that a whole whack of material can come out of here, and that helps to create the back of his head. So I'll go ahead and V-tool that out, and then we'll work on the elbow side of his right arm. Okay, so now we got to establish the width of his arm here, and you can see that the elbow is pointed more to the back, and but we got to get rid of some material. So if you take a look at how wide his glove hand is, or the arm is. So this is, that width there has to be this width over here. So I'm going to take the material off the front of his arm, and that'll give the exaggeration of the arm pointing back. Also, you can see, where is it? There, in the diagram here, that this is more or less a straight line from his elbow, or from his wrist, all the way down to his elbow. And forget about the notch in here for now, but just go straight down and stop at that point, because then from there we have to taper it to join the side of his jaw or the side of his face. So we're gonna stop it at that point, okay? But we're gonna narrow this down, and I'm gonna start that all the way up at the top and bring it down, and so that I can narrow down the width of this whole arm down to, but not below, the elbow. Okay? Okay, so there it is with the material removed all the way up to the wrist, and now I'm going to shape the from the elbow, the point of the elbow, into the side of the body. I'll use my big gouge on that, and point the elbow and just create an angle right into the side of the face. So just like that. So it's shaped. Take off the sharp edges. And maybe the bit of the back here. If I hollow out in here, that gives the elbow a little bit more motion. So I'm getting close there now. This width here could be a little bit narrower. So it looks something like that. Okay, so then on the side of his face in here, I'm going to use this big gouge again and create that hollow in there, like yay. And it doesn't have to be too fancy, but just give the indication that the jaw does start to turn there a little bit. So I'll just give it that start.
So the back of the head actually, it goes back a little bit, doesn't it?
The back of the head starts right in, well, behind his ear, it starts to curve. So like that's the next thing we're going to do here. We're going to remove, start to remove some of the material in that hollow in there.
That's going to be, open space, isn't it?
That's going to be open space, exactly. So take a V-tool, and usually at this point in time I want to make a small hole, so I'll take a smaller V-tool and just start to jab it in with the point, and that starts to make the hollow in there. And you can see that it won't be very long before I'll be able to poke right through to the other side. And the idea is that you hope that you meet up with the concave on the other side, and yeah, we want the two tunnels to meet in the middle. Yeah, I found that remarkable that they were within, what, a half a meter of lining up or something like that. Anyway, so there it starts to poke right through. You can see that the hole is all the way through there now.
In Canada, there's 6 fatal against the skin on average.
Yeah, asphalt's good rough on skin.
Yeah, and leather doesn't really protect
And
you.
you're
No.
on trees.
90%.
Better than
Make sure
nothing.
you sign your donor card.
So, yes, so there it is with it hollowed out for the
Things and, yeah.
back of his head and the front of his elbow. And it comes around. So now, remember this notch that we've got right here? We've got a notch right here. So let's create the sleeve for that, and it comes across. As you can see, it comes across. So the notch is there, but the notch comes across that way. So we've established the notches on the front and on the back. This one down here can be marked on as well, and it just starts and goes in, and you can arbitrarily change that one way or the other, but that's kind of where it goes. Okay? So get those marks on so that we don't lose them down the road. I use a pen anymore for demonstrating, but typically I use a pencil. The question earlier was, how do you clean all the dirt off of your carving when you're finished? And the answer is, I use Sunlight soap and in the kitchen sink, and I use a toothbrush. I wet it, and then I put the toothbrush in the soap, and I scrub it all off, and then I scrub it again with just water, and then I scrub it a third time with just water. And the reason why I scrub it twice after I use the soap is to get the soap off, and because I found that acrylic paint will sometimes bubble up if you still got soap on there, because acrylic paint is a water base, and if you got soap on there, it creates a bubble. And that's another reason why I don't use the new finishes that they have that are like the varnishes that are water based. The same reason, because I found that when I put them on, my method of putting them on is with an acid brush, and it causes it to bubble up, and so it doesn't dry. It dries with the bubbles popped, so you got little O's all over it. So I still use the oil base when I put a finish, a urethane